Welcome to another peaceful evening with Whispering Sandman stories. Tonight, we'll explore the quiet, methodical world of pirate articles. Those carefully written documents that governed life aboard the wooden vessels of seafaring criminals. Let the gentle rhythm of history carry you into restful sleep as we examine the mundane details of how pirates organized their daily routines through written contracts. The tedious task of document preparation. In the dim light of a ship's cabin, with the constant creaking of wooden planks beneath their feet, pirates would gather around a simple wooden table to begin the laborious process of creating their articles. The smell of salt water permeated everything, mixing with the musty odour of old parchment and the faint scent of whale oil from flickering lanterns. The captain, or sometimes the quartermaster, would carefully unfold a piece of parchment, smoothing out each wrinkle with methodical precision. The paper itself was precious, often salvaged from captured merchant vessels or purchased during brief stops at colonial ports. Each sheet represented hours of careful preparation, cleaned and prepared by ship's scribes who understood the importance of creating documents that would last through months of ocean voyages. The writing implements were equally precious. Quill pens carefully maintained and sharpened, their feathers selected for optimal flexibility. The ink, a mixture of oak gall, iron sulfate and gum arabic, was prepared in small batches to prevent spoilage in the humid sea air. Each stroke of the pen required deliberate consideration, as mistakes meant starting over with new parchment. The process began with the careful arrangement of furniture in the captain's quarters. Chairs positioned at precise angles around the central table. The ship's articles required the input of multiple crew members, each taking turns to speak while the designated scribe recorded their words in neat, methodical handwriting. The scratching of quill against parchment created a rhythmic sound, punctuated by the gentle lapping of waves against the ship's hull. The systematic recording of basic agreements. The opening lines of pirate articles followed established patterns, beginning with formal declarations that seemed almost ceremonial in their predictable structure. Articles of agreement made between us, the underwritten, would appear at the top of each document, written in careful calligraphy that demonstrated the serious nature of these maritime contracts. Below this heading, the scribe would methodically list the names of each crew member, starting with the captain and working through the established hierarchy. Each name was written with deliberate care, the quill dipped in ink at regular intervals to maintain consistent darkness. The process could take considerable time, as some crew members were illiterate and required assistance in confirming the correct spelling of their names. The date was recorded with equal precision, noting not only the day and month, but often the phase of the moon and weather conditions. This information seemed mundane, but served practical purposes, helping to establish the legal validity of the document should disputes arise in colonial courts.
The location was similarly detailed, including compass bearings, estimated distance from known landmarks, and depth of water beneath the keel. Between each major section, the scribe would pause to sharpen the quill, a process that involved careful scraping with a small knife to maintain the proper writing angle. The shavings were collected in a small bowl, later used as kindling for the ship's galley fire. Nothing was wasted aboard these vessels, where efficiency and conservation governed every aspect of daily life. The methodical division of treasure. Perhaps the most detailed section of any pirate articles concerned the distribution of captured goods, a process governed by mathematical formulas that had evolved over decades of maritime tradition. The captain's share was typically established first, usually amounting to 2 full shares of whatever treasure the crew might acquire during their voyages. The quartermaster, responsible for maintaining discipline and distributing supplies, received 1.5 shares, while ordinary seamen earned single shares. Specialists such as the ship's carpenter, gunner and surgeon commanded shares that fell between these basic categories, their compensation reflecting both their skills and importance to the vessel's operation. The articles would specify exactly how treasure was to be measured and divided, with particular attention paid to the handling of precious metals. Gold dust required careful weighing using precise scales, often small brass instruments that could detect differences of less than a grain. Silver coins were sorted by origin and purity, Spanish pieces of 8 commanding different values than French or English currency. Precious stones presented unique challenges, requiring evaluation by crew members with expertise in determining authenticity and value. The articles often specified procedures for handling disputes over gemstone values, establishing systems for obtaining second opinions from other pirates or colonial merchants when ports of call made such consultations possible. The physical process of division took place on deck, where good lighting and steady surfaces made accurate measurements possible. Large canvas sheets were spread across the wooden planks, creating clean spaces where treasure could be sorted without losing small items between deck boards. Each crew member's portion was carefully counted and recorded, with signatures or marks confirming acceptance of their assigned share.
The quiet governance of daily routines. Beyond treasure distribution, pirate articles addressed the countless mundane details that governed life aboard ship, creating structure for communities that might spend months together in confined spaces. The watch system received particular attention, with specific provisions for rotating duties fairly among all crew members. The typical watch lasted 4 hours, during which designated crew members maintained constant vigilance for other ships, changing weather conditions, and potential navigational hazards. The articles specified exactly how watch assignments would rotate, ensuring that no individual bore an unfair burden of nighttime duties or faced consistent assignment to the least desirable time periods. Meal preparation and distribution followed similarly detailed protocols, with the ship's cook receiving specific instructions about portion sizes, cooking methods, and the fair distribution of limited supplies. Water rationing was addressed with mathematical precision, specifying exactly how many pints each crew member could consume daily under various circumstances. The maintenance of weapons received equal attention in these documents, with each crew member assigned responsibility for specific pieces of equipment.
cannons required daily cleaning and inspection, their iron surfaces carefully scraped to prevent rust, and their mechanisms tested to ensure proper operation. Small arms needed constant attention, with flintlock mechanisms particularly vulnerable to salt air corrosion. Personal hygiene, while hardly a priority by modern standards, was addressed through basic regulations, specifying times and locations for bathing, washing clothes, and attending to basic medical needs. The ship's limited sop of soap was distributed according to established schedules, with priority given to crew members whose duties brought them into contact with food preparation or medical care. The detailed administration of justice. The enforcement of rules required its own section within pirate articles, establishing procedures for handling disputes and punishing violations of ship's regulations. The quartermaster typically served as the primary arbiter of minor disputes, while more serious offences required consultation with the entire crew. The articles specified exact procedures for conducting trials, including the selection of jury members, the presentation of evidence, and the recording of testimony. These maritime courts followed surprisingly formal procedures, with witnesses called in specific orders and opportunities provided for both accusation and defence. Punishments were catalogued with bureaucratic precision, specifying exactly how many lashes various offences would warrant, how long offenders might be confined, or what portions of their treasure shares they might forfeit. Marooning, the most severe punishment short of execution, required unanimous crew approval and followed detailed protocols for selecting appropriate islands and providing minimal survival supplies. The process of administering physical punishment followed established rituals, with the entire crew assembled on deck to witness the proceedings. The ship's Cato linetails was carefully inspected before use, its leather strands checked for wear, and its handle wrapped with fresh rope to ensure proper grip. The number of lashes was counted aloud, with pauses between each stroke to allow the condemned to maintain consciousness throughout the ordeal. Record-keeping extended to disciplinary actions, with detailed logs maintained of all punishments administered, the reasons for their imposition, and their effects on crew behaviour. These records served multiple purposes, helping future crews understand the consequences of various actions, and providing documentation that might prove useful in negotiations with colonial authorities. The mundane details of maritime democracy. The selection of officers represented one of the most remarkable aspects of pirate organisation, as these criminal enterprises operated according to surprisingly democratic principles. The articles typically specified exact procedures for conducting elections, including the timing of votes, the nomination of candidates, and the resolution of disputed results. Voting was conducted using simple but effective methods, often involving the dropping of small stones or pieces of rope into designated containers. Each crew member possessed equal voting rights regardless of their experience, nationality, or previous service, a level of democracy that exceeded what most had experienced in their previous lives ashore. The captain's authority, while significant during combat situations, was surprisingly limited in day-to-day operations, with major decisions requiring consultation with the quartermaster and approval from the crew majority. The articles specified exactly which types of decisions required democratic approval, from changes in sailing routes to the acceptance of new crew members. The impeachment of officers followed established procedures, with specific requirements for the number of crew members needed to call for new elections and the timeline for conducting replacement votes. These provisions prevented the arbitrary removal of competent leaders, while ensuring that incompetent or abusive officers could be replaced through orderly processes. The physical act of voting took place in the ship's main area, with crew members called forward individually to cast their selections. The counting process was equally methodical, with multiple witnesses observing the tabulation to prevent fraud or manipulation. Results were recorded in the ship's official log, creating permanent documentation of leadership transitions.
The careful management of resources. The careful management of resources, the conservation and distribution of supplies received enormous attention in pirate articles, as these vessels operated far from reliable sources of food, water, and other necessities. The ship's stores were managed with accounting precision that would have impressed colonial merchants, with detailed inventories maintained for everything from ship's biscuit to gunpowder. Water represented the most critical resource, with the articles specifying exact rations for different circumstances and severe penalties for waste or theft. The process of collecting and storing fresh water required constant attention, with designated crew members responsible for maintaining the ship's barrels, testing water quality, and managing consumption rates. Food distribution followed equally rigid protocols, with the ship's cook responsible for preparing meals that maximised nutrition while conserving limited supplies. Salt pork and hardtack formed the foundation of most meals, supplemented by whatever fish could be caught and occasional fresh provisions acquired during port visits. The management of ammunition represented another crucial responsibility, with powder kept dry in specially sealed containers and shot carefully counted and distributed. Each cannon required specific amounts of gunpowder for different situations, with the ship's gunner maintaining detailed records of consumption and remaining supplies. Tools and repair materials were inventoried with similar precision, as the ability to maintain the ship determined whether the crew would survive long ocean voyages. Spare canvas for sail repair, extra rope for rigging, and iron for essential repairs were allocated according to established priorities, with emergency reserves maintained for critical situations. The gentle conclusion of pirate governance. As our exploration of pirate articles draws to its quiet close, we can appreciate the remarkable attention to detail that governed these maritime communities. The careful scratching of quills on parchment, the methodical division of treasure, the patient rotation of watch duties all created structure within the apparent chaos of criminal enterprise. The smell of salt air mingles with memories of whale oil lanterns, casting flickering shadows across documents that represented genuine attempts at fair governance. The gentle creaking of wooden ships, the soft splash of waves against weathered hulls, the quiet conversations of crew members planning their mundane daily routines, all fade into the peaceful rhythm of historical memory. These articles, with their careful attention to voting procedures and resource management, remind us that even in the most unlikely circumstances, human beings create systems of order and cooperation.
the tedious details of watch schedules and punishment protocols, the patient recording of names and shares and sailing dates speak to our enduring need for structure and fairness. Let the quiet efficiency of these long-ago maritime bureaucrats carry you into restful sleep, where dreams of organised pirates and methodical treasure distribution can provide the gentle monotony that encourages peaceful rest. The careful division of responsibilities, the patient resolution of disputes, the endless attention to mundane but necessary details all blend together into the soothing rhythm of organised human activity. Rest well, knowing that even pirates, those supposed symbols of chaos and lawlessness, found comfort in carefully written rules and patiently administered procedures. Their methodical approach to governance, recorded in fading ink on centuries-old parchment, continues to whisper its gentle lessons about the human need for order and cooperation, even in the most unlikely circumstances. Good night and sweet dreams of peacefully organised maritime communities, where every detail was carefully considered, every decision methodically recorded, and every crew member knew exactly what was expected of them in the quiet routine of life at sea.